Happy Easter and happy Sunday. And Easter, as you guys know, is when we talk about rebirth and renewal. You're going to hear a lot of that today. In Christian churches, of course, it's framed as crucifixion and resurrection. And we're grateful here in metaphysical world for Jesus's teachings about that rebirth and renewal, talking about eternal life, non-judgment, unconditional love, and forgiveness. And many of us have our own rebirth and renewal stories, which really help us bring ourselves deeper into faith and hope. And I heard one of those rebirth and renewal stories last week and I was in Phoenix, the Hay House I Can Do It conference. Fabulous time, actually. But if you've never heard of Jim Quick, write his name down really quick. It's Kwik. So Jim actually suffered three severe brain injuries when he was in grade school. And his rebirth and renewal story brought him to that I Can Do It conference as the keynote opening night speaker. Now, Jim talked about his inability to read during grade school, how he became known as the boy with the broken brain. And all of you with children, when you see your child suffer, just imagine your child being called the boy with the broken brain. You can imagine. So he told actually about how his infatuation with comic books, of all things, is what got him into finally being able to read. He would stay up in the middle of the night with the flashlight under the covers, looking at the pictures. And finally, he decided, or he forced himself to push through and learn to read because of those comics. Now today, he's known for speed reading and memory techniques, methods that focus on teaching people how to learn quickly and to optimize brain performance. But the moment that brings tears to Jim's eyes, still, when he's remembering a package arriving at his house a few years ago from a famous movie producer, because now he coaches people like that. It wasn't the producer, it was the chairman of a movie production company. And after their session, Jim was telling this chairman about his love of the X-Men, because that was his favorite comic book and how it helped him to learn to read. Now, that 9-year-old boy, he told this chairman about how the 9-year-old boy, him as a 9-year-old boy, rode around his small town in New York looking for Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, which is where the X-Men were taught to use their powers, I think. Is that right? And since it was in the comic book, it said that it was in his hometown. He would ride his bike around looking for that place. So then, I get teared up every time I think about this. The chairman said, "Meet me at the airport tomorrow." Next morning, Jim is climbing on a plane called the X-Jet with the chairman. He finds the entire cast of the X-Men sitting there. And they're getting ready to fly to Montreal for filming. And guess what scene they're going to film? A scene at Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. He goes back to, he manifested some 30 or 40 years later, being able to get to Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. The package he received a few months later that still brings tears to his eyes. And Cassidy, if you can flip this photo up. Yeah, hopefully, are we seeing the photo? This is a photo of him on the set with the cast of Xavier's School, or of the X-Men. And he's the gentleman who's Hugh Jackman, the guy who plays Wolverine, actually has his arm around. So the note that the chairman sent with the picture was, this photo is your Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters class picture. So I'm still obviously very moved by the thought of this 9-year-old boy. being able to be motivated by such a thing. Many of you know that my 24-year-old neighbor, Taylor, one of my pseudo grandkids, had a very serious brain injury, a month and a half, 2 months ago. Taylor is now in Chicago at a brain injury rehab facility, which is great because we didn't think she was going to survive. She was in a coma and on a respirator for 2.5 weeks. And one night, it was the third night, I spent the night in the hospital so that her family, her parents could go home and explain to their 10-year-old, her 10-year-old brother, what had happened. So I told her, honey, I'm praying for you for what's in your highest, best good. And if you have to go now, I honor that. But if you can stay with us, let's show them what you're made of. And so I can imagine you're able to guess what books and podcasts I'm going to be listening to now. Don't you love synchronicity?